I'm gonna wipe the floor with you.
A content warning before we get started. The gals talk about suicide this episode, so if that's not something you're interested in hearing, this one may not be for you. If you or a loved one is struggling with suicide, you should consider dialing 988 for the Suicide Lifeline. It's a free service which helps those people who are considering taking their own lives. If you want some more resources, you can also visit 988lifeline.org. Be good to yourself. Stay safe out there.
Do you have a like your hair clipped back?
Yes. I'm gonna let's
Oh,
see
it's
that.
a little like topper tie. Dude, okay, so how do you do that? Like my question being like how is it like a hair band? Is it one of those like tight elastic ones that
Yeah, they
hurt?
look like. Do you remember when did you have braces as a kid?
No, I paid for Invisalign because I didn't want to be called brace face. I
Well,
was so
they're
afraid.
these little tiny plastic
But
elastics.
don't those hurt when you like take
No.
it out?
No, because they're not like a rubber band. It's like your hair comes right off. Like they're so smooth, it just comes right off and doesn't pull your hair out.
Dude, I thought that like granted there were some like ones that like did really hurt growing up, which is why like I'm afraid to do that because like I feel like it's just going
No, it won't.
cool. And are
I
you
got
dyeing
my
your hair?
double sweatshirt going today. I got
Is it
one
really
sweatshirt
that cold
on
or are
and
you
another
just
sweatshirt
like
over it.
sensitive to cold?
No, it's freezing. It's like literally blizzarding out right now.
Gross. How are the roads? Are they good or bad?
I Ubered home from work earlier and they were pretty bad. Like the second we got into the highway, it was like skidding. So I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not the one driving.
Dude, that's dangerous.
I have to go
Shit.
back. Usually, it's been working out pretty well that Josh and I have been commuting in and out of work together.
Yeah.
Today's the only day because he has clients in Boston that are not at Ultraflex that he goes and trains at their house. So when days are like that, he's gone from when we leave at like 5 in the morning till when we get home tonight at like 7. So
Yeah. Peace be with Josh then.
yeah.
Inshallah. But
And
how's your day going other than the blizzard? Any
you know what's funny is so today was a rest day for me, and I've just been like kind of dicking around with trying to get more comfortable posing.
yeah.
And I had this aha moment that I was
Ooh.
like, you know what? I'm just gonna practice my posing without videoing it and just kind of not over critique myself, right?
Yeah, so
Because
just like practice just the general flow
yes, because
without
my
critiquing. Yeah.
my like PTSD, if you still want to call it after having like all these like gut issues and whatever else, is always just to like stare at my stomach anytime
Mhm.
I'm posing. And granted, like I'm in off season. I'm almost 30 pounds heavier than I was last time I competed. That like
Right.
obviously I'm not gonna have a completely perfect shredded abs and flat stomach and all the things. Um, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna practice. I'm gonna not pick at myself and I'm just gonna do it. So it was the first time ever that like I nailed how to do the walk now. So
Hmm.
like the walk out and all of that. Because like if I was watching myself do it, I was just like hyper fixating on all the wrong things. So I did it like probably 10 times and then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna film it. And then I filmed it. I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is it.
I
All
love
right.
that.
So stop over picking at yourselves, people.
That's honestly like I know we're talking about like contest prep fails and like lessons we've learned, and I have a list of things that I want to talk about where I
Mhm.
fucked up, but Eric really said something like profound, like when we're posing, because like when you are practicing posing as an athlete, and I know it's a little different for you because you don't have a coach, but as an athlete, when you're practicing posing, you are practicing the skill of getting into your front poses, your transitions, your side poses for wellness, in your case, your back poses. Like you are working on the footwork, you are working on the connection, you're working on presenting your physique. It is not your job, and it's not the goal to pick yourself apart when you are posing. And
Mhm.
that usually, and when I say pick yourself apart, you want to pick yourself apart for like not pointing your toe properly and that like throws off your balance. Okay, yeah, fine. Like that's a critique, right? But like usually it's the stomach fat where you're like, oh, I look like a whale. It's like, dude, you're in your off season. Like you're not going to be a lean bean, right? So if you're hyper fixating on your belly fat rather than like where you are in space. You're missing the point of practicing your posing and practicing the walk and the skill acquisition. You were losing out on that ability as an athlete to improve. And you were adding needless suffering onto your plate. Bro, posing already fucking sucks. It's already hard. Stop being a dang dick to yourself in the process, because like it is going to make it so much more unpleasant than it already is. And that was a hard lesson that I had to learn, where it was just like, dude, just fucking pose. Just see what it's like to like squeeze the tennis ball and like, turn like a mop in your upper body. Give yourself scoliosis. Like it's like focus on that, not whether or not you have like a little bit of extra belly pooch, because yeah, we all do, right? Like we're all gonna have that lower belly pooch. We're gonna have like some cellulite. Dude, embrace that shit. It's part of the process. That's what I learned, and that's something that's like I wanted to share with you, but then also like to the audience, because it's like, dude, like don't do that to yourself. Posing already sucks.
Yeah. There, I mean, that's pretty similar to what I was just saying. And
Yeah.
as far as, like you said, because like I'm coaching myself and all that, and obviously Josh and I are kind of doing this together. Like I'm
Hmm.
making the shots, but like I run things by him. And further down the line, once I do start prepping and I'm probably 4 weeks or so out, I'll want more assistance. But
Yeah.
I do similar that I would with check-ins with my athletes is I take my pictures and all of that type of stuff and I'll think about it while I'm doing it, but I'll put it away. And then I'll go back to it like 2, 3 hours later and then start assessing and making decisions. Because if I did it in the moment, I'll be emotional and wanting to make some type of decision based off of how I feel and not how I look.
Mm, exactly. And like when you make decisions based on feelings alone and not facts, dog, you will lose almost every time. And it's not that you shouldn't feel your feelings, feel them. Like I feel fine. And legit before like we like started to like hop on and actually talk, I was being a bitch because I was just like emotional, right? But in reality, I just needed to, I just need it. And I'm fine. Like legit, I am fine now. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk to one of my best friends. Also, gene
I'm
update.
so excited.
I need a gene update.
They are supposed to be delivered Monday.
That's so quick because they're out in like the fucking UK, right?
Yeah.
Look at them. They're like, they're giving you the booty jeans.
Well, it was so funny when I was sending you, I was like, the dark ones are the light ones, dark ones, dark. And then I
I
looked at the
love
sizes and I
dark.
was like, oh, dark ones are the only ones available. So thank you for deciding for me.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, for those of you that have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, Laura's growing a fucking donkadonk and no longer fits into normal jeans. And so I was like, since she bought me tampon pants, I'm gonna buy her fit jeans. So I bought her like a little gift card for fit jeans.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the donkadonk phase though, I am at that phase where 1 second you're like, damn, I kind of like this. And then 3 seconds later, you're like, I'm so fat, I can't take it anymore. I'm done. Every other second.
Dude, Eric
If
and I were talking about like you have a chart. Like you know how like you have like the pepper chart where it's like, a regular Aspel pepper, there's like no Scovilles, but like you have like the different peppers. So it's like, what's the bodybuilding pepper chart when it comes to like being super fucking fat versus being peeled out of your mind? And so this is what I said. So this is like normal baseline. Going down, you have like lean, then you have like you're starting to get shredded, and then you're getting diced, and then you're getting peeled. Like
Mm.
once you are peeled, like skin peeled, you fucking made it. And that's usually for like the bodybuilders or like the WPD women's bodybuilders. Like bikini wellness shouldn't be getting peeled, in my opinion, because like then you're seeing ass lines, and that's not the goal,
Yeah.
right? So that's like the shredded down. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the other? What's the up? It's like, okay, well, if you have normal, then you're gonna have thick with like C's. Then you have
The big
like,
season
then you
there.
have like uncomfy, and then you have like fluffy, and then you have fucked up your reverse. And there's like there's like just that spectrum.
I bitch about it all the time. I was talking to Josh about it earlier this morning, and I was like, oh, I really, like I just live in comfy clothes now. Like, because
Hmm.
we're going to some comedy show this weekend. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna wear. I have nothing to wear because nothing fits. And he's like, listen, you can bitch about it all you want, but do you want to look like you did last time? Do you want to look like you don't belong? Shut up. And I was just like, okay.
Dude, legit, that post that I made back in January that went fucking gangbuster viral to the point where like I wanted to delete the fucking post because it was just so overwhelming how many people
That's
liked
good
it and
though.
reshared it.
Oh, and
Um,
then someone redid it. Yeah, that one.
no. There was a different post. I made a post where it says the body fat you gained during your off season will be lost in prep, but the muscle you didn't grow because you were too afraid to put on a little bit of body fat won't be. Do what you need to do to be successful. Do it right. That post blew up. Over 3,300 likes,
Wow.
over 171,000 views,
Jesus.
over 1.1 thousand shares, and then 500 saves. Like, people took this and ran with it. Like,
That's
almost,
funny that they save that. That's not a post I would feel like people would save. Like, is it just you kind of like remind yourself of it? It's in your mind,
but you
not like
wouldn't.
circle back
But
to.
like that actually is a post that I needed way back when I was in my
For
first
sure.
ever off season, like after I competed, because like you were like, oh, I'm gonna go pro, like me, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go pro in a year, and then like I didn't want to gain body fat like
Well,
at
it's a
all,
good
and like
precursor.
yeah, I mean like there were some chuckle fucks that were like, you actually shouldn't get fat, and I was like, I said a little bit of body fat. I didn't say look like Jared from Subway before
And the
Subway
other,
hit.
it's gonna really depend on the person. Here's the thing, and like I'm a good example of this. I do not have elite genetics. I am not from some, Brazilian country and South American
Hmm.
country, all that good stuff. That I feel like a lot of them can stay leaner and progress and build muscle and also eat a lot more,
Yeah.
and not gain a lot of body fat.
Hmm.
That's not in the cards for me. So we're getting a little softer than we like. But if I want to grow, that's part of the process.
And
And
part of that post said, do what you need to do to
hmm,
be successful,
and
which
that's
is
just
so
it.
important, is you cannot compare. And I'm not talking about you, but people listening, you cannot compare what I do, what Meg does, what Laura does, what your favorite Bitfluencer does, what your favorite Brazilian does.
Yeah.
You need to do what you need to do to be successful. That's why we
And
keep saying like context matters. It's person dependent because it does.
for sure. And there's going to be periods of time that you need to change things, Maybe you're somebody that needs to gain a decent amount of muscle, and that's going to elicit a 3, 4 year growth season for you.
Mhm.
That's probably not going to be a straight shot growth season. You're going to have to do some type of mini cuts to clean up
Yeah.
insulin, body fat, all that type of stuff. So it also is going to be periodized too to what's
Mhm.
appropriate for your internal health markers, not even just what you look like aesthetically.
Dude,
Because
yeah. I didn't do a 5 fucking year bulk. Like that's not how my off season happened. It had like periods of growing and pushing, periods of holding and health, periods of mini cuts and diet phases. So like to a naked eye, to like a commoner, to a regular civilian, it might,
commoner
yeah, to a naked civilian,
peasants.
peasants, yeah, it might look like I was a yo-yo dieter, but it's the intention. Everything that I did, everything that Austin guided me through had purpose, had intention, right? And it was all a part of the experience and the process of growing and developing myself as an athlete, which is kind of the first point of the mistakes that I made in my first prep, my only like competitive season, is my mindset was so fucked. It was so focused on self-hatred. I wanted to punish myself. I wanted to fit myself in the tiny, skinny mini box. And I wanted that external validation. I was posting like the big booty bitch photos, and I didn't even have I was not even a big booty bitch. I was like, I don't even know. I can't think of something funny, but like, it was to the point where like my Instagram page reeked of just low self-worth and needing the likes and needing the claps and needing the, oh girl, you look so good. I needed that to the point it actually, and this is me being vulnerable as fuck, I needed so much external validation from anyone. It actually caused a big riff in Eric and I's marriage. He was like, why are you posting these photos? Like, why do you need that from us? Because I was so fucking insecure with myself that I needed it from everyone, failing to realize that I was focused on the wrong things, which is why when I did enter into a contest prep, mentally, it was so much harder because I was not focused on bringing my best or doing it right or doing right by myself. I just wanted to destroy my body and destroy my mental health.
It's funny that well, Not funny, but
Laura goes,
interesting.
ah!
With that, no, it's really interesting because I would say the bodybuilding world itself conjoins a lot of lost people,
Mm,
people that have struggled with, eating disorders, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, extreme loss, all of those type of things. It is a very trauma bonding industry.
yes.
And in that, it also brings a lot of disordered mental health
Yep.
together. And for me, initially, I got into bodybuilding. I had lost someone close to me to suicide. I
Mhm.
blamed myself for it, and I needed anything and everything possible to not feel.
Mhm.
And the act of dieting gave me, something else to distract me far enough to not deal with all of the internal struggles that I was having mentally and
Yep.
honestly physically at that point. I was already having like no period and gut issues, and I just kind of like blew it off like it was normal.
Mhm.
Because I didn't know better at the time, but it was just to escape my life and have this very little life circle that I was focused on. And then it was always on to the next show because as soon as I would stop prep, then I'd actually have to face the disaster that I had been pushing off and off and off and off, which is how I ended up doing like a 2 year straight competition season.
Exactly. So for both of us, it was rooted in the fact that we were prepping because we were trying to run away from our reality, right?
Yep.
Like we hated who we were in our everyday life that we had to have prep to have something that was safe. It was so deeply rooted in control, in a very negative, toxic cycle of control, that the minute that prep was done, and for me, when the eyes, because again, the attention span in the fitness community is like, oh, but it's like the minute I was done, the minute I posted like my stage shots or whatever, people were onto someone else. The lean lovers left,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Amen.
then I was alone. And then it's like, oh, then I had to gain fat. And then it's like, oh, now I'm in my off season. Well, what can I do to maybe speed this up? Oh, I'll take drugs. And that was my thought process. I mean, legitimately, it was so naive. And I get so angry at myself and I'll get angry at other people because they do the shit that I did. And I was like, don't be like that. Don't be me. But it's so important to understand that, like, if you were going to prep, up here has to be rock solid, right? It's
Mm.
got to be rock solid. You got to make sure you do that inner work. You've got to make sure you have a good support system. You've got to make sure that if you have like past traumas that you're in therapy working on it and continue to work with a therapist, right? Like that is something that for my athletes is a non-negotiable. Like prep is earned, yes, by making sure you do the bodybuilding things, the training, the meal prep, yada, yada, yada. But if your mindset is fucked, if you are so focused on getting snaps and claps for what you look like, dude, not the sport for you. Not yet. Not right now. You cannot handle it. Because when the lights are not on you anymore, you're gonna just implode.
That was a really good point. Not yet, not right now. And I think that that's
Yes.
also something that I wish I had done differently.
Mm,
Having come from a eating disorder history, never having fully gotten to the point that I was okay in being in a body that wasn't lean, not even
mhm.
just stage lean, but like relatively lean, because that was my identity and I didn't know anything else. And I think that if you are looking to enter the bodybuilding world, because it seems to be very attractive to people that come from eating disorder past,
Mhm.
you need to be past that for a significant period of time because when you do a bodybuilding prep, the reverse coming out of it feels like trying to recover from a relapse of anorexia or any type of eating disorder
Yep.
all over again. And one thing that I've finally gotten to the point, fucking 11 years later of being able to pull myself out quicker than
Mhm.
I used to, but it would be contest prep that was 3 months long and then another 5 months after that before I'd even start to try to do a reverse.
Yeah.
It's just hold that look as long as you can. And that is not healthy. That is how you start having internal issues. And that's also how you end up miserable because I wasn't happy at that point either.
Exactly. And I love that you kind of touched on the food because that was another mistake that I made is I don't want to like be like, oh, I prepped vegan and I regret that. Like, yes, I do regret that, but the vegan was just a manifestation of the inner root problem, which I was too focused on food and control with my food. I had too much emphasis on what I ate, and that in and of itself is still not the best place for prep, right? Like, you should not be food focused to the point where like you're checking your MyFitnessPal to make sure you have food left for the day. Like if you go into prep with that already, not a good starting point, right? Like I'm not saying that you like shouldn't fucking care about what you feel or and what you eat because like I love my meals. I love the colors, I love the thought, I love the flavors and spices, but I appreciate and respect food for what it does. I don't need it how I needed it back then to the point where I was doing if it fits your macros, I was trying to volume hack, like I was trying to hack and like manipulate food to the point that like it was so fucking disordered that I look back on that time and I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I wish I would have gotten help because just all the time that I wasted and all the time I spent just I spun it as like, oh, me being creative, like look at my meals, but like, dude, it wasn't that nonchalant. It was like I had to do this or else I felt lost. I lost myself in how I viewed food and how that impacted like my entire life. And now it's just like food is food. I love the colors, I love how I feel, but it's like it's not my identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, dog, it's just food.
I forget who it was. I saw a post the other day about like zucchini in their oatmeal, and I was just like, "Do
Oh,
you
that was
really?"
me.
No, it wasn't.
No. I'm saying like that was
No.
me. Like I did
I was like,
that.
no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. I can't remember who it was. And I'm like, do you really want to do that? You don't want to do that. Come on. Oh,
Listen, as someone that grew up eating zucchini bread, that was my Picasso. That was my inspiration. I was like, oh, I'll just make zucchini bread oats. And it's like, okay, yeah, but like it was zucchini and it was oatmeal, and then it was like fucking cinnamon protein powder, and then it was like that Walden Farms marshmallow shit, which like is just cancer. Like all it is Walden Farms is cancer. That's all it is at that point. You know what I'm saying? But like I had to have it because that's all I had.
yeah, no. So flash forward a little bit for our journey of mistakes. Past the like eating disorder stuff is then the never actually doing anything correct to improve, as
Mm.
far as still doing every and any lower body exercise there was specifically.
At the pull
Um,
throughs, bitch.
an hour and a half of cardio just because I was bored. I didn't have anything else I needed to do. Like
Mhm.
the dumbest shit. Just because you're in off season doesn't mean you need any less structure, but your structure should be shaped towards your goals, not
Mhm.
just to fuck it, let's do this, let's do that. Like I understand there is definitely going to be some periods of time that maybe you want to take a little bit of a break from having a structured program. You lost your kind of love for fitness and need a little reinvention. Sure, go ahead. Pick your staple movements, change what days you train on, have some type of variety that still makes sense if you need to do
Yeah.
that. But also incorporate other things out of that outside of the gym that you look forward to. Because if it's just the gym, you're gonna get bored.
I mean, you're gonna get burnt out, right? You're gonna get burnt the fuck out. And I do want to touch on like one more thing because I had another mistake that I did in prep, and I know this is something that still some athletes hyper fixate on. I was too focused on a timeline because I
Mm,
picked shows.
mm,
Now, inherently, there might not be anything wrong with picking shows when you are at the level that you need to start being calculated in between shows and national shows, right? If it is your first time out of the gates, picking a show does not serve you. It does not, because all you're doing is adding that extra stress, creating unnecessary urgency. And at that point, you're focused on competing, not bringing your best, which is why this prep no shows. Like people are like, what show are you doing? And I straight up I'm like, that's not how I compete. That's not how I bodybuild. I'm not just gonna pick a show because I can drive to it. Yeah, that's nice. I can understand why that would be nice from like a financial standpoint, but I have saved up money to where finances is not something that's gonna hinder my ability to bring my best. And that's where it's like I have set myself up well to have that wiggle room when it comes to opposing coach that is at the level that I need it to make sure that, okay, we're not just doing arm adjustments, we're doing like your footwork. We're making sure that your transition, like all of it fucking matters because of how I want to present myself on stage. Now, if this is your first time competing, maybe your goals aren't as aggressive as mine. That's fine, but still bring your best and make sure that your mental, your physical, financial support system, all of these things are taken into consideration, and you're not just going to do a bodybuilding show.
Mhm. There's a lot of that too. And like, I get it, maybe for a first time competitor to just kind of like get your feet wet. It is very involved, very expensive, very time consuming. But there is no worse feeling than getting your ass up on that stage and feeling out of place,
Yep.
feeling unprepared, and coming in last. Like all the above, you don't want any of it. So
Or
take the
they'll come in
time.
second place out of two people, and they're like, "Oh, I got second." And it's like you got last.
I
like,
really,
like that's the
we've
reality
just
of it.
we've discussed this before, but I really wish that was no longer a thing.
Oh,
I
I
know
know.
it's never going to be that, but wish it wasn't.
Yeah. But that was my one last thing of like the caveat of specifically contest prep. But like, yeah, in the off season, like, don't treat it just like a fuck off vacation. Like, and again, it's not that you have to be as regimented, because that's something that I made a mistake in my off season where I was like, I'm a robot. I'll do what my coach says. And dog, at the end of that roboticism, and this is again like me just being completely fucking honest, I was in such a deep level of depression and suicidal thought and tendency that like it was so fucking scary. And it's like something that I try not to talk about too much because I understand it's kind of like a trigger for some people, but I was in such a dark, deep space where, I literally told Eric, and I'm trying not to cry during this, but like I literally told him on the darkest, deepest, hardest part of my day. Like this was like the worst it ever had gotten, to where I woke up and I was just like, what's the point? He was like about to kiss me and go to work. Don't cry. And he was like, "Oh, I'll see you when I get home." And I was like, "You might not have a wife to go home to." And like, just
Regrets.
that feeling is awful. It is awful to feel like that. And it's like, God damn it, it's not that serious. Like, it should not be like, it should not be to the point where you feel so fucking low for a goddamn trophy. Like, that's why I'm so adamant about mental health now, because it's like, if I just would have had the help of a qualified therapist outside of the one I was already working with insomnia, where it was just focused around sleep. But it's like my sleep went to shit because up here was so fucked that it wasn't just the sleep, it was the fact that I all I was a bodybuilder. And that's so fucking depressing. It is so depressing to just be a bodybuilder. And like, don't let anyone tell you that you need to be a robot in order to win, because fuck those people. Sorry. Sorry for crying.
No, don't
But
apologize for that. If I could like get in there,
oh my God, I need a Laura Titty hug. It just
just
but seriously, guys, like if you're at the point where it's like you don't want to wake up anymore, that's a fucking problem. It was a problem like weeks prior or weeks before that. But then if your
not that
body like wants to self-destruct, dude, like fucking ask for help. Like at that point, it's like that's red alert.
it's also adding gasoline to an already lit fire, being let's deplete our body of all the nutrients and fuck our hormones and all the things that give us happy feelings. Let's just get rid of those. Let's add
Dude,
some
legit.
gas in there.
Legit. You know what's crazy? Is like they put me on an antidepressant. They put me on Wellbutrin at that time, and
Yeah.
Wellbutrin within a certain age group. And this is not me shitting on Wellbutrin. It was the fact that I was having such a hard time, and the immediate thing that my doctor wanted to do was put me on a pill. And because I was so desperate, I took it. I did not do research as to what it would do to me because I was just so lost and
Yeah.
so low. I did not realize that for my age group, Wellbutrin tested that it was more likely to cause suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And I
Yes.
was within that age group where fucking bingo, what I thought was my saving grace, because again, I had no hope. I was so low. It literally almost drove me to just end it because of just how it interacted with my brain. And I'm not saying do not take antidepressants. I'm not saying that. I'm just being honest about what I was like during that time.
I had a client in a similar experience, not that she was to the extent of suicidal thoughts, but very, very depressed. And her doctor actually prescribed her just exactly that and said, if you notice that you're starting to plan your suicide, reach out for help. And I was just like,
Yeah.
how do you give
I
that to
don't, I didn't
people?
get that disclaimer.
How do you give that to people? What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Damn. Sorry, that
Um,
got dark.
hey, that's reality though. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like, no
people
one
have,
is actually going to talk about this shit because it's not. I'm not proud of it. It's not like I am proud to announce this, like Rip Riley's. You know what I'm saying? But it's like that was my reality, and thank God, like Eric during that time when he like heard me say that, he did not go into work, right? Like my husband during that time is the reason why I'm alive. Because if I did not have his love and support, at that point, my life was so useless to me that I just didn't care, but I thought about what I would leave him with. And it's like I couldn't do it. And again, like there were days where I just wouldn't sleep. He would not go to sleep. We would just play video games together all through the night. And like that type of love is like what I want for all of my friends because it's like I would not be here without him. And if anything ever happened to him like that, dude, I'm in the saddle. Fuck bodybuilding, fuck sleep. If he's going through some shit where he's not sleeping, guess what? We're getting video games. We're gonna get some Diet Coke. We're gonna get movie snacks, and we're gonna make the most of it because he was so giving to me, and he's the reason why I'm alive.
that's the reality of what the relationships
Hmm.
people aspire to have should look like, and not
Yeah.
just who's hot, who's good in bed, who's,
Oh, I'm great in bed. I'm
bringing
hot, but
bringing
I
the
also am
things to
crazy.
the table. We're talking about tier of importance.
Ah, yeah,
Mm, all the stupid things you think are important when you're like 21.
yeah. I was like trying to think of my age. I feel like I was 24. I was 24 when I wanted to die, and that's like so depressing to think about because like you were a baby. Like
That is not even that long ago. Jesus
I
Christ.
know,
What was
right?
that, 2020?
Yeah. Yeah. So like during that time I was working at a vegan coaching company where I was being overworked and I was doing calls as our check-ins. So it's like you're absorbing 70 people, 30-minute calls a week, absorbing all of their stuff, and you're not like you were taking on clients, but like they're not like a good fit. You know what I'm saying? And then Eric was doing night shift, rotating schedule to where like week one would be first shift, 2 days off. Week two would be second shift, 2 days off. Week three would be third shift, 4 days off. So like his sleep schedule was changing. So therefore, like it was hard for me to like keep up with that. And then like bodybuilding was all I had. I was overtraining, under eating. Like I had no boundaries in place. Like at some point, it was my fault for pushing my body into the fucking dirt and eating grass. And like that is why I look back on that now and I'm like, God damn, I wish I would have respected myself enough to put up boundaries, to ask for help, to get help because I needed it. But I was too fucking stubborn to think that I could do it all because I was doing it all. I was fine. And then my body wanted to self destruct. So in reality, was I fine? No.
I think there's a lot of that in this field, though, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
A lot of it is triggered from also having poor mental health and then adding drugs to it. That's also not going to be a very successful route. And I think there's a lot of men that experience that and don't discuss it.
Oh, yeah. Like, it is something where, as much as bodybuilding has given to me, because of how I used to bodybuild way back when, it almost took my life. But it wasn't the sport's fault. It was how I did it. It was the intention behind my actions, which is why, like, again, this sport will absolutely ruin you if you do it incorrectly. And I get this is like maybe sounding too philosophical for some people. They're just like, oh, it's diet and yada yada. Yes, at its core, you are training, you are eating, you're taking supplements, you are, stretching, working, like whatever. Like, yeah, those are some of the actions that you do, but it's how you do them, the intention and what you think about them and what you think about yourself, especially when you're being judged on all of your work wearing your undies.
Mhm.
Like that shit requires such a high level of vulnerability that like you have to build up to it. You know what I'm saying? To fully understand like what this is.
Yeah, there's definitely no soft way to take being told that your physique is not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as you become a seasoned athlete in a good sport and open to corrective criticism and all the things, that's always going to stink.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter how you got it. But
Especially
being,
when you're like a girl and like, I mean, like I struggle with this too, but like I know as a girl, I always felt pressure to look a certain way, to eat a certain way, like to behave a certain way because of magazines, celebrities, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, like all of these things, like inundated with, in order to be female, in order to look like this, you need to look, behave, eat, yada, 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 wear. And then when you're an adult and you're trying to figure out like what you want to be in the world and what you want to contribute, and you do like kind of like trauma bond within bodybuilding. And then when you step on stage and your little sparkly bikini and you're tan, you're feeling like $1 million, and then your judge's feedback is, hey, these are all the ways that you suck. And yeah, these are the ways that you're good. But like as competitors, at least in my experience, because I did suck. Like, let's be honest, guys. Like, I had no business being on stage, but I did it. When I got that list of bad, I was like,
getting a compliment sandwich?
the first show I did was actually good feedback. It was helpful. The other feedback, it was a lot more constructive, but it I don't know how to explain it. It's like the first feedback was great stage presentation, beautiful like suit, hair, makeup, tan. But you just need to grow. And I should have like packed it up and like, okay, off to growing. But instead, I did another show, got even leaner, got probably too lean for bikini, where it was like I was stringy anyway because I had no baseline level of muscle. But then, like, I didn't do my hair well. The tan got fucked up. The whole show day experience was kind of pretty stressful. And then it was like all of these criticisms, like your tan was messed up, like your glutes were imbalanced. And we all know how I feel about my imbalanced glutes based on the last podcast. And that was just something where I was like, oh, maybe I can't do this. And like it was like not that big of a deal. It was just constructive criticism. But because my mental health was not good, it was such a personal attack that I
Mhm.
felt that I was like, fuck my belly. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, it was like just what I needed to work on, you know?
I don't know if I don't think I ever shared this story or not,
Oh,
but
this is
so
exclusive.
my first ever national show for figure, I was first call outs. I ended up being sixth place out of probably, I think it was like 32 girls. The girl that ended up being fifth place was an Olympian after like 2 years later.
Bro.
I was fucking floored, not in a good way. Like I was so mad that I was sixth place. I had no idea that I had just accomplished something that was good. Not for nothing, I was natural at the time, and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And I went on to North Americans because this was Universe. Not to mention, I didn't even want to go back to the like nighttime part when they did
Oh,
awards and
you're
stuff
gonna
because
you were gonna do that?
oh
Ooh.
yeah. Oh yeah. I knew nothing about bodybuilding either. And like I did have a coach at the time and he was like, no, you get your ass back there at night and you be a mature athlete. And I'm like,
Good for him or them for that, just because like you want to be a good
oh,
sport.
he was so mad at me. My at the time my coach was Justin Randall and he's amazing. And he was like, nope, this is what you're doing. Your ass is going back. And I'm like,
Dude, Justin Randall's a real one for that then. Shout out to
yeah.
you, Justin.
At the time I didn't know any better, and he was the one that was like, this is an accomplishment. Like you fucking rock. This is your first ever national show. Be happy.
Dude,
Nope.
6 out of 32. So that would have been like what,
And I was
four call outs at
probably
least?
the only girl that was natural too at the time, like
Yeah, so
realistically.
you were natural. You
Yes.
got first call outs out of
Yep.
4 or 5 call outs in
Yep.
figure.
Yep. Yeah, universe.
It's so
Yep.
bad when you
And so what I did was not take the feedback of that I needed more muscle and continued on to North Americans, which wasn't until what, September?
So how many months were you still
Like,
in prep?
oh, I prepped it was a marathon prep. But by the time I got to North Americans, I will never forget this. I had a coach come up to me. Oh, I'm blanking on his name, and he's like, "Yeah, I saw you at Universe. You did awesome. You looked awesome. You looked way better at that show than this show." And I was just like, because I stayed dieting the whole time, and I didn't actually like take any time to like refeed, build up a litter. And I was conditioned. That's why I placed so well at
Yeah.
Universe, like appropriately. I just didn't have enough muscle. And I
Bruh.
was humiliated. Like, oh, okay. Thanks for telling me the truth.
Well,
Like,
that's the thing. That's the thing that you have to remember is usually, and this is hard because like what I'm about to say, there's gonna be someone out there who's like, oh yeah, my feedback was really dumb and generic. There are some judges that probably don't take time to give proper feedback and criticism. I would like to do that disclaimer. But when they do provide feedback, especially if you're working with a coach, look at the feedback and decipher what is true, right? That is so important. In my case, I should have accepted that I needed to grow. That was the truth. But instead, I already had it in my mind, the other show date. And I was like, let's continue on. I had the money. I was like, let's do it. And I was so focused on competing. Again, I wasn't focused on bringing my best or doing what was best for my bodybuilding career, if you will. And like, I get it. It was my first show season. But if you're a first time athlete and you looked how I looked, you don't need a season. You need one show, get some feedback, pack it up, start doing the bodybuilding. Now, granted, if you looked like Laura when she was doing figure, and that was kind of like her first go round where she got six, and she maybe did it a little bit differently where she was improving in between shows. Yeah, it probably would make sense to have a season to get a pro card. But again, Laura didn't do it like that, so ignore me.
nope.
But Laura's like, no. But it goes to
Bill
point
Ager was the
is
guy.
yeah, is to show you that like
Yep.
you can do multiple shows if you are making improvements between shows and it makes sense to keep on. But if it doesn't make sense logically, not emotionally, dude, just congratulate yourself on doing the fucking thing because
The
most
only
people
time,
go
the
ahead.
only time that makes sense too, that the further I've gotten into competing, and I'm sure you can agree with this too, is if conditioning was off, like they literally tell you you were not lean
Oh
enough.
yeah, they tell you.
Something went wrong between your tan, your suit, whatever, and that was feedback. Like, we just want to change your look a little bit, or you're like top two, three at a national level show. And like sometimes when you continue on, they see you enough. Yes, that person does end up getting a pro card. Yes, valid. But if they're telling you like you're under muscled, hang it the fuck up.
Yeah. Like again, congratulate yourself that you followed through because like yeah, you see the people that competed and showed up on show day, but like you don't see all the people that pulled out of prep. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It's like the fact that you did the damn thing, like that's, I hate to say everyone gets a trophy, but like at some point you do have to also understand that it does take a lot of guts to do what we do. And
Mhm.
like yeah, George Kittle's like grandma said like I don't play to lose, do you? Like she's 100 years old when she said that. Like at some point you need to understand that yeah, like whether you're doing this for a bucket list item or you're in it to win it, it's like you do want to win. But at the same time, it's like you also have to understand like if it's your first show and you're really just trying to get your feet wet and you have no expectations, it's like the fact that you like followed through on it, that's still really fucking cool and is an accomplishment in and of itself to recognize.
Something I was also thinking about that I feel like we all probably spend way too much money on, not even just new competitors in general, is your fucking suits. And I didn't realize this,
Mm.
and maybe this is just me being late to the game, but there are so many opportunities for either suit rentals or buying used suits. Like, I didn't realize there are
Yeah.
people in Facebook groups, people on Facebook
Oh
Marketplace,
yeah.
Poshmark, all of these places that you can get a used suit. And granted, like even if the suit doesn't fit you perfectly, to spend $200 on a beautiful suit that's been used maybe once or twice and have it taken in, Jesus Christ, I spent
Yeah.
$850 on a suit that I'm not even going to wear.
Yeah. I will say when I was doing my first competitive season, I did buy two suits because I did. Like again, I had the money.
And
I was
at the
like, I'm gonna
time, was that the cost? Like suits are
so
steep
yeah, I'm
now.
gonna get into that. The first suit was like it's again, I don't want to say this to be like as a bash because I don't view it that way, but it was Val's competition bikinis where they're not discounted, but they're like 200-300 bucks at the time. This was 2019 prices. With that, that's still pretty, cheap relatively. So I went with her and I was really impressed with her customer service. I was really impressed with the suit. I got a lot more compliments of my Val suit than I did my Toxic Angels. Now, granted, The Toxic Angels, I made that custom. Like I worked with the suit designer, and at that time it was popular to have like the chains, like two.
Mm. Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I
yeah.
did that, right? I did that. And
Chandelier look.
yes, yes, exactly. And although I didn't have like the best experience as a customer with Toxic Angels, it's not that they're a bad suit company by any means. It's just like kind of felt like I was a bother to the suit designer, and that was just kind of made me feel bad. And the only reason why I went with them is because I won a gift card from, oh fuck, she was this huge bikini athlete at the time of 2019. Beautiful brown, black hair, wore a red suit, beautiful glutes. Shit, that's gonna haunt me. It's gonna haunt me. But I won a gift card from her, which is why I bought another suit. Because I
Thought
was like,
Amanda
oh,
Latona, no?
what?
I don't know why I thought of Amanda Latona when you said that.
No, I want to say it was like Jessica, Julia. It was a J. But she was like on the Olympia stage. But she was like I'm gonna look it up. That's gonna haunt me. Can we like look at? Is there a way to like look at like results without like? No, okay, it's probably not. That's fine. Um, but anyway, I got a gift card from her, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna use it because I don't want it to go to waste. You know what I'm saying? And so. Bought another suit. And again, like it was a very pretty suit. Like the design and the crystals were very high quality, very professional. I didn't do a good job, picking out like what I should have because again, I was focused on like what was popular, not really what fit my physique well. And again, the customer service that I had at the time, it wasn't for me. But I got a lot of compliments on my Val suit. So like long story short, like especially if it's your first show, you can rent or use maybe a cheaper suit company that's more budget friendly and work with the suit designer to make it fit you. And then if you really do enjoy competing, if this is the sport for you, then like, take the off season that you need to take. And then from there, if you want to splurge a little bit, save up money and go with like a well or known or higher established or higher quality suit, that's completely fine as well.
The thing for me, and maybe this is just a me thing, is I get the like itch to get a new suit every time I compete. And that's where I'm finding the like, is this worth buying new every single time question.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had that, but then again, I've always competed. I only competed twice. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of
Mhm.
like, meh.
Oh God, the amount of suits I've had is ridiculous.
How many suits?
At least 10.
So like at least 10 grand, most likely.
Yeah, definitely more than 10. Because I've had like four different figure suits I can think of. I competed in bikini. Yeah, yeah. I had like three, probably two or three different bikini suits. I had a red wellness suit. I have a blue wellness. Yeah. So probably like 11, 12 somewhere.
Damn, that's a
Mm.
lot. But also goes to show you how expensive this sport is because like you're wearing the suit for, I mean, this is going to be generous. This is going to be so generous. I would say you're probably wearing your suit for a total of depending upon how long the show is, granted. And let's say you do one show, I would say 12 hours. And that also includes maybe a couple of check-ins prior. But this is not the suit that you want to be wearing year round because like the more that you wear it, the more likely it is to like wear off, right? And that's like
Your
obviously,
diamonds fall off. Or
yeah.
honestly, too, I think part of that can kind of get to you mentally being like, it doesn't fit the way it'll probably still fit you. You probably can still get in it, but it probably won't fit you the way that it did. And then you're
Yeah.
going to start picking at yourself about that too.
Oh yeah. Exactly. But anyway, that's probably like another wormhole to get into. Any other things that you regret other than like the stuff we already touched on?
Just not being more open to learning, to be totally honest.
Dude, that's a good one. Yeah, like just like being a student of the sport, like that's really important that as an athlete, you're students, you're trying to, hone in on your skills and trying to make improvements. And then that
Mm.
also extends to us as coaches, like continuing to learn and be a student so you can provide a better service to your clients and, be better to yourself. Like be willing to learn, but also don't get so addicted to self-improvement that you stop having fun. Because that's something that I struggle with a lot, where it's like that perfectionist mentality where it's like you want to be better and you want to be good, but sometimes we overreach to where it's like you want to like touch the perfect star. And in
Mhm.
reality, you're never going to touch that bitch. So
I
it's
had this
like,
weird concept that I used to feel like I needed to know everything, and asking
Hmm.
for help or learning from somebody else or taking advice from somebody else meant that I wasn't good at being a trainer or coach or whatever. And like I definitely got over that probably like 2 years ago, something like that, when like especially I started investing in all of these different types of mentorships because I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
The more I know, the fucking better I'm gonna be. So bring it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like again, it is good to invest in your continuing education. It's like something that I do and it's built into my prices. But at some point, it's not that you need to stop learning. It's you need to stop obsessing over it. Because like when I'm like on my mentorship calls with like Austin and Trey, a part of the group mentorship, I'm like, I'm a useless worm. Like hearing them talk, I'm like, I don't know shit about fuck, but it's so exciting to like learn from them and have that ability to learn because it's like that I'm getting better and therefore my clients can get better. But like once upon a time, I was with you where it's like I was so focused on like going back to school where I burnt myself out to the point where I was like, what's the point? Like, I'll never be this smart. But it's like, again, that was like trying to touch the perfection star.
You? Ugh. I will say there's a little bit of a caveat to that though, for the fact that eventually you have to start saying, I'm gonna stand on my own 2 feet a little bit and trust myself.
100%.
Because that was another issue honestly when I left Jeff that I struggled with for a while, being like, can I do this? Do I know enough? Am I smart enough to do all of this? Can I help people? And then it was like, oh wow, by the way, I've been doing this the whole time. I
Yeah,
just
and that's the thing. It's like it needs to be both, right? But it's like sometimes with addiction personalities, it's like you put a lot of gas into like this path, and then you start to get imposter syndrome because you're so focused on learning rather than like learning how to, implement what you're learning. And then there are some people that are like, "Oh, fuck my continuing education. Fuck Steve. I know everybody I need to know." And it's like well, they're so focused on like outdated information, which is why we still have some people eating like 8 meals a day, like 1 hour
Mm,
spaced apart, and they're wondering why they're like bloated and like blowing air out their ass like every second of the day. So it's like there needs to be a balance of both. And again, it's the intention of why you do what you do. It all comes back to intention, which is again is
yep,
the big part of mindset and working with like a qualified mental health professional because we all have shit. We all have demons. And that doesn't make you bad to have demons. What makes it bad is when those demons rule you and you
yep,
feel like you don't have a high quality of life. Because not only that does impact how you bodybuild, and the stress that we always talk about, but then also like it impacts your real day-to-day activities. And like that's not fun either.
totally. I find myself a lot more than prior saying nowadays to people, this is not my area of expertise. Let me
Yeah.
introduce you to somebody who is.
Dude, like legit, like the referral system is so important as well. It's like I think I've sent the majority of my athletes that I'm like, listen, I would love to be able to help you through this. It's outside of my scope though. So let's like invite someone else in who is qualified to help you so you can feel and be the best you can be. And like I've sent a lot of people to like BetterHelp or, to Dr.
Yeah,
Effie. She's my therapist because like
yeah,
I fucking am crazy and I need my own support system. And like she does good work. And I appreciate the fact that she's also a bodybuilder because also in my experience working with some therapists, they're like, oh, well, you have an issue with food, it's bodybuilding. And it's like, it's not bodybuilding's fault that I'm a crazy bitch. It's the fact that I'm a crazy bitch because of how I view it. And it's like digging into the root cause. And some therapists just like they don't get it unless you get it. You know what I'm saying? Like unless you're like in the sport, you don't get it.
for sure.
Hmm. Any final thoughts on the topic?
That's it.
Cool. I love it. Do you have any funny questions? We need funny questions. I cried. We need
Craziest.
fucking funny questions.
What is the craziest dream you can remember that you've had relatively lately?
Ooh, oh, lately? Hmm.
I've been having some really weird dreams.
I don't know about lately, but this one sticks out like so like paramount because it's something that Eric and I joke about like pretty frequently. So I'm gonna go back to that dream. But I had this dream when Eric and I were first early on dating. And for those of you guys that don't know, like Eric and I have been together for 11 years. So we've had like a quite an extensive history of like memories and shit like that. But this was like early on in the saga, like maybe like 8 or 9 months into dating. And I had this dream where like I don't know how it happened, but like he was going to the bathroom and I was folding his laundry. And again, at this time, we weren't even living together. Like we weren't even playing house. But I was like folding his like boxer briefs or whatever, and I noticed that he had like shit stains on them. And I was like, why do you have so much shit stains on your boxer briefs? And he looks at me, looks at them, he just shrugs, he goes, they're just railroad tracks. And just goes on with his day. And I was like, what do you say to that? So like I told him about that. And like thankfully he doesn't have shit stains in his boxer briefs, but like whenever we just like are looking at something and he'll just be looking at me and he'll be like, they're just railroad tracks. And it's just like, bro, like what the fuck goes on in your brain when you're asleep?
Oh, I go to another world for sure. First
Hmm.
off, I had a dream the other night that you and I were supposed to be jumping on the podcast, and all of a sudden I look over and I see the bunny can fly, and I've got like 10 other reindeer Dobermans come out of the sky, and I hop on the back of one. I'm like, bye, Ash, I'll be back. Just take off like Harry Potter.
You're like the fucking Santa of like reindeer Doberman.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love
yeah,
it.
but they were all dogs. I'm like, this is great. She can fly. And then the other day, like this was like probably 3 days ago, something like
I'm gonna
that.
wipe the
I
floor
had
with
a
you.
dream
My
about
side shot and front shot is
competing, and
way
this
better than yours. Your
girl
back shot might
that
be a little
is a
bit
real
better, but I'm
person.
gonna win.
I go
And
up to
like
her and I was like,
that is not my
I was gonna
personality
say, for those of you guys that
at
don't know
all.
Laura very well, Laura is like such a humble bumble of a human being and like doesn't like
oh no,
would never inflate herself
no.
to that degree.
So I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is wrong with me?
That is
Apparently, my dream ego is very confident.
love that. Love that. All right, I do have a fun question. What pizza tastes better? Triangle slices or square slices?
Square slices.
Square slices.
Yeah. You got to be a corner square slice too, like the
Ooh,
extra
my
like, crust
girl.
all around. Mm.
My girl. So I grew up obviously with Dayton style pizza. And for those of you that don't know, that is actually like a style of pizza. Like I know there's Detroit, there's New York, there's yada yada yada. But Dayton style is almost like a cracker crust. It's very, very thin
Ooh,
and oh,
okay.
it's good. It's crunchy. It's crunchy. If you
Right
guys
there.
know like Ron's or Marion's or Casano's, those are the Dayton style pizza places. And it's a circle pizza, but they cut it into squares and it's crunchy and it's so good and it's amazing. And I get that everyone thinks that their hometown pizza is amazing, but Dayton is primo.
I was like a Pizza Hut personal pizza gal as a kid. So
They got good
that to
crust.
me, that is like doughy pizza.
It is
Um,
very doughy. It is very doughy. Doughy and buttery because it's like
mm,
it was always like,
yep. And I
yep,
would just strip the cheese off because I didn't like cheese. So
I love
big
that.
bread.
You cracked me up. All right, what do you think before and we'll get you out of here because I know you have to go back to work.
Mm, yes. What was that?
What are you grateful for? Because I know you have to get back to work.
Oh,
So,
yes. I'm grateful for how real we keep things on here, like seriously, today was like a very personal and vulnerable moment that you
yeah,
shared with everybody. So
yeah.
I'm really grateful
It's
for
the last podcast episode is the Ash has a mental breakdown. This one, Ashley actually cried.
no, Ash has a mental breakdown part two.
Part two. Ashley actually shed real life tears. Oh, damn. Part two. Stay tuned. Oh, let's not make it a part three, guys. I can't handle this.
What are you grateful for?
Dude, I'm so thankful that Eric's birthday's on Saturday. And
Oh,
so, yeah, so he'll be turning 29. And so I baked him
oh,
his favorite
oh,
coke. I know he's getting
oh, we're getting
close.
close.
But he'll be turning 29 and I'm gonna be baking his favorite coconut cake. So I already have the coconut cakes baked, but today I'm gonna be making the frosting and then like the, I don't know, innards. It's like there's like an inner part that needs to be different than icing, and
All the
then we'll be serving
layers.
that. Yeah, so I'm excited for him.
Oh, it's very sweet of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate you for
Love you
letting me cry
too.
and be emotional and being a good friend. Big titty hug. All right. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy
See
your
ya.
day.